Hello and welcome to the Grade 4 Math Expressions Cycle 1 Scope and Sequence Overview for the 2019-20 school year. I want to highlight for you some of the changes to this document compared to last year, as well as just some of the key features so that if you're new to the district or new to math expressions, welcome, and help you understand how to navigate this document. So in a lot of ways, it's very self-explanatory, but there are some things kind of embedded in it that you might miss. So the first is the dates. These dates, these benchmark cycles, have followed the same structure for the past 3 years, but we still get a lot of questions about them. So when you look at them, you'll see, okay, benchmark cycle 1, September 3rd through November 8th. Cool. Those dates don't match the dates of, say, the terms or report cards. Those dates are selected because Friday, November 8th is the last day of instruction before Monday, November 12th, the benchmark window opens. For us, it's really important that you have adequate time to teach everything before the benchmark. We don't want kids to have questions on their benchmark that you didn't get to. So because you might give your benchmark on that Monday, you have time to teach all of this content that could be tested by Friday, November 8th. Where this becomes tricky is that not everybody gives their benchmark on the 12th. You might not give it till the 19th, 20th, 27th, and you might be tempted to keep practicing, keep reteaching, keep reviewing until you give it. But if you do that, you're gonna fall behind. The intention is that you move on to lesson 218 to this content on November 13th, even if you haven't given the benchmark. I guess that's incentive to give your benchmark early in the cycle, but it's also just something to keep in mind. You may be a little flexible. Let's say you're giving it on the 14th and you don't start until after. Okay, but please keep these dates in mind. Please don't make assumptions that these dates are the same as ELA because they're not. If you want to get through the content this year, and there's a lot to get through, and if you want to get through the majority before the PSSA, this is the pace you need to keep. When I say the majority, look down here. This line in the middle of cycle 4 tells you that if I follow this pace, which is very ambitious already, I will not get to lessons 8.4 through 8.12. There's a lot of geometry content that I will not get to before the PSSA. I highlight that for you so that you can see how important pacing is, but also so that you see that if you're not going to get to it, maybe you want to look ahead at what that content is and sprinkle it throughout the rest of the year, maybe with a math instructional routine. So this page gives you the overview for the year. Next page. These are the cycle 1 standards. These are the standards that you are teaching during cycle 1. They're the standards that will be on your benchmark. I see that there are 2 pages, pages 2 and 3. Okay, we have a Pennsylvania column on the left. We have a Common Core column on the right. Some schools use PA, some schools use Common Core. Some schools like to kind of use both. Maybe I use PA, but when I want to look up a resource from a national resource, like from Illustrative Math or Eureka, I need to know the Common Core equivalent. So this shows you everything you're teaching in cycle 1, but also how the 2 sets of standards are aligned. In PA, we have PA Core standards. Those are the darker gray boxes. So in cycle 1, you have 1, 2, 3 PA Core standards that you are teaching. Seems like not a lot, but some of these are very rich. It takes a long time to teach that content. PA Core standards are fairly broad, fairly general. It's hard to really understand what they mean in detail. So underneath each PA Core standard are aligned eligible content. Those eligible content help me to more detailed view understand what that core standard means. So even though I only have 3 PA Core standards in cycle 1, I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of eligible content. Common Core. You'll notice that the PA Core standards are very similar to these gray boxes in the Common Core. These are called Common Core clusters. This is the 4 NBT A cluster. And under the A cluster, I have the A1, A2, and A3 standards. Common Core standards are almost identical. Sometimes they are literally identical to the PA eligible content. The other thing that's interesting on this document are these bold words: conceptual, procedural, application. Those are the three aspects of rigor, and rigor is one of the three Common Core shifts of focus, coherence, and rigor. You maybe have heard people talking about the shifts. You maybe have heard people talking about rigor. Rigor is all about achieving balance. In math, when we say rigor, we don't mean difficulty. We mean balance. We mean helping students experience and understand math conceptually, meaning how does it work? Why does it work? How can I represent it? Procedurally, so what are various strategies and procedures that I can be fluent and efficient with? And application. When and why and how do I use this in the real world? I want to achieve balance, but I don't necessarily need balance every day. In fact, some standards, I shouldn't really have a balance because some standards are much more about one aspect of rigor than the others. For NBTA 1 is a conceptual standard. It's about recognizing and understanding place value. It's being able to explain how place value works and how the places are related to each other by a function of 10 times. Some standards might be a combination of two, and some, well, here's one that's procedural. This 4NBTB4, it's about being fluent with a procedure. In fact, 4th grade is the first time that kids use the standard algorithm for addition and subtraction. A lot of times teachers teach it in 2nd or 3rd grade, but according to the standard algorithm, this procedural standard, is new and the focus in 4th grade. So those are your standards. That's what's happening cycle 1. It's a quick reference sheet for you. Then we get down here to the nitty-gritty of the lessons themselves, of the units themselves. Math Expressions has really large units. So Unit 1, place value and multi-digit addition and subtraction, that unit, is 14 lessons. It can be really hard to stay focused for 14 lessons. Do I think about all 14 at one time? Do I think about only one lesson at a time? To help you focus, Math Expressions breaks their units into big ideas. So lessons 1 through 5 plus this PA lesson are all a part of Big Idea 1. So in this document, I broke it down by big idea and I provided kind of a summary of the big idea to help you focus as you're working on that chunk of lessons. I also gave you the range of dates. So I am working on Big Idea 1 from roughly 9/3 until 9/16. That gives me 1 day per lesson plus 5 flex days. 5 flex days. How can I use them? However you want. My recommendation, though, would not be to go through day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, now I have 5 flex days. What should I do? Instead, try to be proactive. Think about, well, gosh, maybe lesson 1, 2 is really challenging, and so I should break it apart into 2 days. Or maybe I need to pre-teach a concept with a lesson from last year. Take a day for that. Maybe I need to give a test. Or maybe I'm sick or we have a field trip. There's lots of ways you can use your flex days, but they are built in to let you make instructional decisions. Okay, 2 differences from last year. Last year, each lesson had one objective, and that was all that was written. This year, instead, I've broken it down by each activity and the objective for that activity. Then, after the objective, there's just some notes, things that might help you teach that activity better. Hopefully. I hope those notes are helpful. I broke it down by activity because I realized that sometimes the activities are quite different from each other, and I want this document to give you a better sense of what's happening. The other key difference from last year is this column on the right. Math Expressions tends to say that each lesson is aligned to many standards. And that's great. It's great that they're integrating lots of standards and showing how they're connected. I think, though, as a teacher, it's really hard to focus attention and to make choices when I have so many standards. So, what I did over here was say, okay, for lesson 1, 2, it has 2 different activities. These are the main eligible content for each activity. There's probably others that are aligned as well, but this is the focus. On day 1, there's only 1. It seems like a lot of times there's 2, but a lot of times there's also just 1. I'm hoping that is helpful as you try to focus your attention. Then we come down, you'll see the same thing for Unit 2. Each lesson, title, activity, objective of the activity, notes about the activity, eligible content for the lesson. Each chunk of lessons is broken into a big idea with some notes about the big idea. Each big idea has the dates that you have for teaching that chunk of lessons. And we'll come down, to the end of the benchmark window. The benchmark cycle. Your window opens on the 12th, your lessons were finished on the 8th, and you can move on to cycle 2. Cycle 2 is not available yet. The intention is that it will be available by October 24th. But even though you don't have the detailed version yet, you can see the big picture overview on the first page. I know that was a lot of information. I hope some of it was new and interesting and exciting and helpful. But I want to wish you a wonderful cycle 1, a wonderful school year. I hope that this document is helpful. If you ever have any feedback or questions or comments or anything math related, don't hesitate to reach out to math@PhilaSD. You'll receive access to our whole team through that email address, and we would be happy to be of assistance. So again, welcome back, good luck, and thank you for listening.